Alright guys, so I've been using the Fantech Aria II Pro for the past couple weeks now, and honestly, I've been really impressed with this mouse. Especially in 2024, there are just so many good options when it comes to budget gaming mice, and the Fantech Aria II is no different. But before we get into this video, I just wanted to let you guys know that Fantech did send out the Aria II Pro for me to review. However, no money was exchanged, and they're not going to be able to see this video before it's posted, and there will be also no influence from them on what I think of the mouse and my opinions on it. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is the difference between the Pro version and the non-Pro version. So the Fantech Aria II has two different variants. The one that they did send to me was the Pro version, as I said earlier, and there's really only one difference. So it's actually in the internals. So the non-Pro version has a completely different MCU compared to the Pro version. And the reason for that is because the Pro version has an 8,000 Hertz polling rate, while the non-Pro version only has 1,000 Hertz. So we'll get into that a little bit later, but first let's just talk about this mouse itself. So inside the box, of course, you get the mouse, and you also get the 8K dongle if you get the Pro version. You also get grip tape, which I found was pretty funny because as you guys will see about the coating later, I actually find it very nice, but I mean, it's kind of cool to see that they do add some additional things. As for the shape of the mouse, initially this is an egg-shaped mouse, which is something that I'm pretty comfortable with, especially with someone that's switching from the G305. I really didn't have any issues with this. It is more kind of like a Razer Orochi type of egg-shaped mouse, but the Razer Orochi is not really a mouse that I really find comfortable. I think it's just a little bit too small, but the Fantech Aria II has been really great to use. When it comes to the build quality, this is also something that I was really impressed with. I mean, even if you try gripping it really hard on any kind of the sides, it doesn't feel like it's really gonna break at all. The only real place that you feel a little bit of a difference is in the middle part here when you grip like this, but even when you do, there is just no bending that happens at all. So in the long term, you really shouldn't see any issues when it comes to the structure or the build quality. Overall, I think this mouse is just built super well, and yeah, there's just no worries to really have here. Along with that, the feet on the mouse are actually really nice to use, especially when I'm playing FPS games and I'm playing, trying to track properly. The feet just glide super well, which is always great to see. And as for the weight, this is definitely something that's a lot different for me. So the G305 is a pretty heavy mice, especially with that AA battery in here, but the Fantech Aria II is actually 53 grams. So by no means is that the lightest mice on the actual market, but from switching from the G305, this feels just really light. It almost feels like I'm playing with a cloud. And as someone that usually does like heavier mice, which is the entire reason why I'm still on the G305, I actually really prefer this almost over the G305. I don't know if it was just a bias that I had from the past, but I just found this really comfortable to use, especially when I was playing Rainbow Six Siege. I just felt like my aim was more precise and just was a lot better in general. So it's definitely something that I'm probably going to be sticking with. I don't really see myself going back to the G305. I just feel like my aim is just a lot better with this mouse. So I'm definitely going to be trying to go for some different mice, maybe even lighter, to see if that's even better. But yeah, I just really like the weight on this mouse. It's been really great. So for the coating, as said earlier, it's already really grippy. I actually really like it a lot. When I try on my G305, it just feels way too slippery. It feels like I'm going to throw the mouse right out of my hand. But yeah, this is a really nice coating. It's super grippy. It doesn't feel like it's going to fly out of my hand, and that's why I kind of find it funny that they added grip tape, because this mouse is already super grippy. I mean, like, how much more grip do you really want? It's definitely one of the most comfortable mice that I've used, and I've used quite a bit as well. But yeah, I don't know, something about this coating just feels really great. As for the buttons, they are pretty light. They're easy to click. I actually really like the sounds of all of the buttons on this mouse. There is a little bit of travel on the left and right click buttons, which is really unnoticeable in most scenarios. It's not really going to affect anything. Same can be said on the side buttons. There is a bit of pre-travel when you press on the sides, but again, as someone that does use these side buttons really often, it's not something that you're going to notice in your actual gameplay. And overall, the buttons are just built super well. As for the scroll wheel, it's also really solid. I mean, you don't really see any stops in the steps, and as someone that does use a scroll wheel very often, especially in Fortnite, yeah, it's just been really good. But now let's talk about the polling rate. So as I said earlier, the Pro version does have the 8,000 Hertz polling rate, which is the main difference between the non-Pro and the Pro version. So the non-Pro version actually sells for about $48 on Fantech's website. However, the Pro version is about $88, so a $40 difference for one feature. So now there's already a ton of resources like YouTube videos and websites explaining the difference between an 1,000 Hertz polling rate mouse and an 8,000 Hertz polling polling rate mouse, really, it's not something that you're going to notice. I almost think that it's more of a marketing scheme for most part. And especially when I was using the 8000 hertz, the battery life just died way too fast. Like I had to charge this mouse really often when I was using that high polling rate option. So really the $40 difference between the non-pro and the pro version, is it really worth it? Honestly, I don't think it is. I think the much better value mouse is in the non-pro version, because for most people, an 1000 hertz polling rate mouse is really all you need. I mean, pretty much for everyone, that's all you really need. You're pretty much getting the exact same mouse when it comes to the buttons, the shape, the coding, but the one difference is the polling rate, which, as for most people know, it's just not really worth it. As for the software for this mouse, it really isn't anything special. I was able to change some of the settings which I think are optimal for this mouse. So the first thing that I changed was the debounce time to 0 milliseconds. I also turned on peak performance so that we're getting the most out of this mouse. And I also turned on long distance mode. But yeah, guys, would I recommend the Fantech Aria II Pro? Honestly, probably not. I would really recommend trying to go for the non-pro version. I think that's the much better value. Of course, I don't actually have it on me, but as I said earlier, the only difference is the internals. So it just doesn't really make sense going for the pro version. I understand that the 8000 hertz may sound good, but for most people, it's really just not necessary. But yeah, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys all in the next one.